6:30 p.m., November the 18th, 2019. At this time, I call the City Council, City of Grantville, into a regular meeting session. First order of business would be invocation. Mr. Mowry, would you lead us in the invocation? If we could stand for that and remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's look for a prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for today's blessings, Holy Father, for the life, health, and strength you've given us. We thank you for blessing our town, blessing all our town, keeping us safe, Father. We pray for your guidance and your presence for this meeting tonight, Father. We pray we come together in unity, work out our decisions. We pray for our mayor, our council, our city manager, our city attorney, Father. Each one came this way this evening. We pray you bless them in their homes. We pray this in Jesus' name, Father. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next order of business will be the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do you have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order of business, the approval of the minutes for October the 14th, 2019 and October the 28th, 2019. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Discussion, decision on the removal of sludge from the land application system pond number 1, College Street.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As we know at the work session, we got 3 quotes. C&M dredging for $254,150 plus trucking fees. WBI Inc. for $190,000 plus trucking fees. Hydrochemicals, $574,000 plus trucking fees. We checked the references. We checked 3 references on WBI. All of them said they would work with the contractor again. In fact, one said they're still working with them. They said the quality of work is good, that the working with the contractor's crew and subcontractors handled challenges well. Communication was adequate. They'd hire the contractor again, and they were working with dewatering, with Gary Emery, with Austin Engineering. They were working on desludging a lagoon, and with Sandy Lynn Engineering, they were working with a belt press to reduce and remove sludge. So the references done by the Director of Public Works and Utilities checked out. So we recommend that we go into contract with WBI Inc. to remove the sludge from Pond 1, College Street. The second challenge will be funding it. As you see from the handout, we have 5 projects in our capital improvement plan fully funded. Passenger depot for $100,000, the community revitalization plan for $50,000, downtown revitalization for $75,000, the freight depot for $100,000, the water tank refurbishment for $40,000. We are recommending that we reduce the freight depot capital improvement plan $25,000 to $75,000. We are recommending that we remove downtown revitalization at $75,000. And we're recommending that we remove the community revitalization plan for $50,000. That'll give us a total of $200,000 to spend on sludge removal. As you will also note, in the 2019-2024 SPLOST, as of August, we have the following balances that we can later use to fund the projects that have in fact been removed, if that is the desire of the mayor and city council. But for our immediate funding, we recommend that the freight depot be reduced to $75,000, community revitalization plan of $50,000 be removed, and downtown revitalization of $75,000 be removed.
Mr. Mayor, three things. Chief, can you bring me one of these chairs? I can't stay in this wheelchair. Just come around the side. Mr. Mayor requests we do these separately. I make a motion that we approve the WBI Incorporated. I didn't hear the dollar,
$190,000.
Okay, $190,000. I recommend we move to accept their bid at $190,000. That's my motion.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any questions or discussion?
I have a question. Just a minute, I'm waiting. Jim to get situated, he can't hear. Now, last week, our head of public works recommended that we take this out of general funds to, and I'm asking questions here, to prevent taking out a loan to do this project. That was his intentions last week, was to us fund it ourselves in some form or fashion.
Correct. And funding it out of SPLOST dollars is 2013-2018 SPLOST dollars is a legitimate project as approved by the voters of Coweta County. The line item is utilities, and this would be a capital project under that line item.
I didn't understand that. Is some of the splash money gonna go toward, that ain't the way I understood that when you were telling me how we were gonna fund it.
Well, Russ may have said to use general fund money so we didn't take out a loan. However, there is not $190,000 available in the general fund budget for this. There's no budget line item in the 2020 budget for sludge removal. So since this is a capital project, we recommend using SPLOST dollars to do it, because under the 2013-2018 SPLOST referendum as approved by the voters of Coweta County, one of the projects under the grant bill list of projects was utilities, and this would fall under that category.
I understand.
So if we take items out, if we take fully funded items out of the capital improvement plan and reduce one, we will have $200,000 of available SPOS money to spend on this project. That's money in the bank. And we never want to go to contract unless we have money in the bank to pay for it.
Anybody else? Got any questions? The only question I have is, and I asked it last week, or last time we discussed this, I guess it was last week, about where the money could come from, whether or not splotch funds could be used. And it was indicated we could, but then after the meeting, I asked the city attorney, and he did not know whether he could or not. And he said it'd probably be better answered by the accountant. So I contacted James Edgar, and he had some ideas, but he wasn't 100% on it, so he contacted the auditor, Mr. Pentecost. And did you see the email he sent this evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But if I can, I'll read it. It said, this is from Mr. Pentecost. I had a call from James Edgar today about potential splotch expenditures for removal of sludge from the sewer system. I have done a little research and found the attached. I would call your attention, page 2, and the practice tips at the top of page 3 on this. Basically, other than road maintenance projects, only capital outlays or additions to the systems would be eligible for splotch according to Georgia law. So anything deemed maintenance or operations for which splotch is expended is actually a violation of Georgia law. So any expenditure on the sewer would have to be a capital project. It cannot be maintenance of the system. As always, I would advise that you consult your attorney. Well, I asked the attorney, and he kicked it to the accountant and what so forth. So just be aware that that's the accountant or the auditor's opinion.
Well, I think I've answered the question. Under the SPOS referendum 2013, 2018, grant bill projects are listed. One of them which is utilities. Now, if this doesn't qualify as a capital project under utilities, the removal of an accumulation of sludge in one of our treatment ponds, then the city attorney is going to have to rule on it. But in my opinion, it qualifies. It is certainly a capital project. It's over $500. That's the threshold. Number 2, it is not maintenance. It is not operation. It is removal of accumulation of sludge from the date that pond was put in the ground.
That's it. I'm not here to argue.
Well, I'm not either.
I'm here to
I'm just telling you.
read what the man said. And,
Well,
you know, it's up to the council. What you want to do.
Again, it's not operation nor maintenance.
And,
It's a capital project.
I would say it was maintenance, but that's just my opinion. Anybody else?
Well, I am concerned, somebody help me to understand this. Removing the sludge from the pond, how could it not be maintenance to maintain so the sludge would not become unbearable is not a good word, that would just become overwhelming. So how could that not be, if you're removing something, aren't you removing it to make things better, and that would not be maintenance? I'm just asking.
No, ma'am, it's a capital project in my opinion. Maintenance would be stirring it around and taking what we have now and not doing anything. We're not maintaining the pond, we're improving the pond with a capital project to remove the accumulation of sludge since the pond was put in the ground.
Well, since the art, is he the author who wrote this? Since he has this opinion and you have your opinion, and would it be feasible to maybe table this for this decision or discussion at the work session? Just a thought.
Is that it?
Yes.
Well, we have a motion on the floor. Anybody else got any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the contract for $190,000, excuse me, for WBI Inc. to take the sludge out of number 1 College Street Pond, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Discussion and approval of MEAG Power annual subscription.
Sir? We have to get to the second problem.
Okay, I thought we had that. They go-
Wasn't in the motion, Mayor.
All right, we'll go, so how to pay for it, right?
Correct.
Okay. You heard the recommendation, city manager, to pay for it by taking the funds from other projects. What's the will of the council?
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'm very much against removing $75,000, all the money from downtown revitalization. The city's done nothing for downtown, zero, unless you want to consider the money spent on the passenger depot. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'd like to see us just remove the $100,000 from the freight depot. This passenger depot, even though there's no real plans to do much with it to help the citizens of the community, is something the council wants, so leave that alone. But get the other 90 from community revitalization and water tank refurbishment. That's $190,000. My motion is to use that money. Freight depot, community revitalization, and water tank refurbishment, $190,000 to fund the sludge removal.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second? Do I have a second to the motion to take the finances through the community revitalization plan, 50,000, freight depot, 100,000, and water tank refurb, 40,000? No second? Record show the motion fails for the lack of a second. Now we're back to square one.
Now, can I make a motion? Yeah? Can I make a motion that we table how we gonna fund this? Originally, we decided on who's gonna do it. And I think there were some questions about the, what monies we could use from where, and I think a little bit of thought needs to be put into this, and I'd just like to table that. Obviously, we're gonna do it, we've chosen who can do it, but how we fund it maybe needs some thought to our next meeting.
That's your motion?
Yes, sir.
I have a motion to the next regular meeting or next work.
Well, I put it on the work session and we'll vote on it in the next meeting.
I have a motion to table to the next work session. Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions?
Is this something that will be brought up before the utility committee?
I'm sorry?
Is this something that will be brought up before the utility committee?
I think it would be appropriate, yeah. That would be up to the committee or the council.
Mr. Mayor, we've approved the project, so we're past the utility committee. We're talking about funding, and we're talking about a delay. So my question to the city manager is, can you deal with this being voted on a month from now? The funding, because if we don't do this tonight, you've got a 30-day wait. How you doing over there?
We will contact the city attorney to prepare a contract with WBI. I suspect till they get mobilized and everything, it'll take some time. We have the money in the bank to pay for it. It's up to the mayor and city council what projects from which to pay for it. We can handle it.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further questions to table? Hearing none, all in favor of tabling it, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Okay, next order of business is discussion and approval of MEAG Power annual subscription for supplemental power.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, as previously mentioned at the work session, we had done this before, but MEAG Power added another paragraph that doesn't apply to us for all the MEAG participants. So again, we recommend that we designate MEAG as our agent to nominate and acquire any combination of resources to optimize their supplemental power supply requirements, and as we always do, authorize the mayor to sign. That's our recommendation.
Okay, your recommendation was the will of the council.
Motion to authorize and the mayor to sign.
Have a motion, have a second.
A second.
Motion and second to authorize the mayor to sign. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Discussion approval of Georgia Power Lighting Service agreements for the surveillance.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, as we talked about the work session, this is to put 2 cameras on Georgia Power poles, one viewing the vehicles exiting and one entering the interchange exit 35 off I-85. We recommend approval.
Okay. Heard the recommendation of the manager, what's the will?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the Georgia Power Lighting Services.
I have a motion to approve the lighting service agreement. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Discussion approval of resolution 2019-26, no personal checks for fine payments in the municipal court.
Yes, sir, we recommend approval of resolution 2019-26.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2019-26?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2019-26 for personal checks for fine payments in the court.
Do you have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'm seconded.
Have a motion and a second. Do you have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Discussion approval of mayor to sign Electric Cities of Georgia year-end settlement, YES, and contract payment reimbursement for fiscal year 2019 in the amount of $2,150.73.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. As we discussed at the work session, we recommend that this go to the ECG Member Reserve Fund. This is sort of like putting it in the bank for us to use at an appropriate time, and we recommend approval.
Okay, you have a recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendation?
I make a motion, Mr. Mayor, for us to approve the electric city of Georgia year-end settlement and the
Yep.
funds to go to the reserve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second, do you have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next item, discussion approval for mayor to sign MCT election form, MEAG ballot.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is the election form for offset system energy sales margins for the power supply year 2020, as we normally do and have done for the past years. We deposit our money in the flexible operating account, short-term portfolio, 100%. And we recommend approval. This is sort of our rainy day fund. This election is needed every year because 2 signatures are requested, one being the utility committee chairperson, and since that rotates normally from year to year, we need to sign the form again this year, although we are doing the same that we have done for the last 4 years. And we recommend approval.
Okay. You heard the recommendation, city manager, what's the will of the council?
Motion to approve and the mayor to sign.
Have a motion to approve the MCT election form. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do you have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next item is decision on application for commission and board. George Henry Shellnut and Peggy Winn.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Shellnut and Ms. Wynn have all requested
Administrative Committee to amend section 38-1B of the Code of Ordinances to employ the services of a rating specialist not less than every 5 years to study and review the rates then in effect and suggest changes.
Yes, sir. Presently, sir, the code says that the governing rating specialist will employ annually, not less than once annually, to study and review. We recommend that language be changed to once, not less than once every 5 years. It saves us money and it enables, it gives us more flexibility to employ the rating specialist. The cost to employ one annually for each one of our utilities is $1,000 to $3,000. 40 utilities can go from $4,000 to $12,000. We recommend that we do it not less than once every 5 years. Normally, we set our rates, and we're hoping that we keep the trend going, that we set them once to cover 5 years, as we did with our electric rates. So we recommend that the amendment to section 38-1B of the Code of Ordinances to employ a rating specialist not less than every 5 years be approved.
Okay, do I have a motion to amend section 38-1B, like boy, of the Code of Ordinances?
I'll make a motion that we amend it.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. Next recommendation, Administrative Committee to amend section 2.02F like Frank of the charter requiring that those candidates seeking election for the office of mayor and council who receive a majority, replacing the word plurality of the votes cast, shall be deemed elected.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, as we heard in the work session from the city attorney, this requires local legislation. The city council would have to request the local legislative delegation to introduce legislation to amend the charter of the city of Grantville to require that candidates seeking election for the office of mayor and council receive a majority of the votes cast to be deemed elected. So, it cannot be a change to our charter without requesting local legislation by the legislative delegation that represents the city of Granville, which would be Senator Brass and Representative Trammell.
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve the change.
To ask the, what should his motion be?
The motion would be to ask the local legislative delegation to introduce legislation to amend the charter of the city of Granville to require that candidates seeking election for the office of mayor and council receive a majority of the votes cast to be deemed elected.
That was my motion.
Yes, sir, I heard it
Thank you.
loud and clear.
Thank you.
I would have a motion, do I have a second?
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? I have some more discussion, pretty much what I asked the first time around. What is the logic behind this? Who came up with it and why?
Well, you know, that was answered before. You asked, and I answered that question before. I suggested this, and it's basically because most other municipalities and counties and state governments and our national government elect people this way. And here's a very good example of how our elections have went in the past. People winning by small margins, and it's just that.
Look, if, are you done? Are you finished?
Go ahead.
If I could just interject here that I agree that the federal and the state levels do that, but I've got copies of the charter of City of Noonan, City of Turin, or the town of Turin, whatever. Section 5.7 of the City of Noonan, election of mayor. The mayor shall be elected from the city at large by plurality vote. Now, for some reason in Noonan, the council members do have to get 50% or more, and they run for individual posts. Now, if we wanted to do like Noonan, then each one of y'all would only run for seat 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you must get 50% of the voters in that district. City of Sonoy, who receives a plurality of votes. Sharpsburg, Hogansville is different. No, they're the same. They're the same. And then in Turin, whoever gets the highest number of votes wins. City of Franklin, same thing. So, to say we wanna do what other jurisdictions, that's not totally true in this area. And, the one thing that I would point out, that judging from the election results of this city in the past, it would require a runoff in almost every election, which would cost the citizens of Grantville an additional $5,000 approximately to hold that election.
Mayor, everything you said ain't accurate.
Pardon me?
The city of Newnan, if you printed that off of Municode, that's not accurate. Some of that's not
No, I
accurate.
didn't- I didn't.
If some of the city officials are elected by polarity, they all have to be. If they're elected by a majority, they all have to be. You can't split it. And another thing is, it would, I don't think it ever would come near $5,000, and if any other municipality within the city, we would share the cost.
Well, you answered to the Hoganville, Newnan. No, I didn't get it off of Municode. I requested a copy from the clerk of the city of Newnan, and she sent it by email to my mayor's account, and I copied it off of that. Now, as far as the other jurisdictions, no, if we have our own election, we would have to fund it.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I would like to say on these recommendations from the, and I know we're taking one at a time, from the administrative committee that I'm a member of, I just believe it would be wise to, before we talk to our representative and all of that we have a meeting with our citizens. You could call it a public hearing or town hall meeting, whatever, to get input from our citizens to see how they feel about the changes that the council wants to make to the charter. And let us go from there. I think it would be wise to do that, and you get additional input.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I think that denying 70% of the people who take the time and come to vote in Grantville for an elected representative, denying them a right, I think is uncalled for. If you don't want 50% of the vote, you want to win on 30% of the votes and 70% home, we've got a problem in Grantville that's unique. They don't have 4 people running for each council seat in Newnan, Sonoy. They don't have this. They're not electing people with 30%. And we don't have to do what they do. We've got a problem. This recommendation, we're for. A couple of us are for at least, but it was professionally recommended. I recommended it years ago, but I'm not the professional. The professionals that have had to deal with the problems in Grantville that we've hired to help us come out of the problems we have to deal with, like that wall and what happened with all that money, have recommended this so that we can hold people accountable. And right now, we want to be held accountable to the citizens of Grantville that want to choose their leader and don't want to have to be sent home, 70% of them sent home, because a small block can vote together and too many people run. So if it costs $5,000, it may save us a fortune. The citizens of Grantville, by a majority vote, choosing the elected representative, what a novel idea. I think it's wonderful. I hope it passes. Thank you.
Well, like I say, I don't have any real heartburn with it, but I serve up here, and the citizens that I've talked to in the town have mentioned that it would cause, in some cases, there was like one vote, there was 2 votes less than 50%, which in that case, it would cost the citizens $5,000 approximately to hold an election when it was pretty obvious of those people voting wanted that candidate. So, and it's a pretty well known fact that when you have runoff elections, a lot less people even turn out for those. All right. Anybody else got any questions? All right. All in favor of the motion, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. All right. Next, recommendation, administrative committee to amend section 2.02F of the charter requiring the my bad, we just did that one. Sorry about that. Recommendation, to amend 3.03 of the charter in line 4 by adding the phrase, should the post of city manager not be filled after the words, the mayor may direct for such purposes, and before the words, he shall have, recommendation of the administrative committee, well, that's it.
You want me to explain that, Mr. Mayor?
If you would care to, that's fine.
Okay, right now, section 3.03, the administrative duties of the mayor, in line 4 says, he shall have the authority to control the work of all offices and employees of the city, and shall further have the authority to relieve any employee of his duties without pay for up to 7 days for failure to properly perform those duties or for failure to follow lawful instructions. The administrative committee suggested that not to diminish the power of the mayor, but to put the following words in place. Should the post of city manager not be filled, he, because we're talking administrative duties of the mayor, he shall have the authority to control the work of all officers and employees of the city, and shall further have the authority to relieve any employee of these duties without pay for up to 7 days for failure to properly perform those duties or for failure to follow lawful instruction. It just adds the words, should the post of city manager not be filled.
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Are you finished now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve, amending section 3.03 of the charter. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, and I have a second. Do you have any questions or discussion?
Yes, as I forestated, until we can have a meeting with our citizen, I'm opposed to all the recommendations from the administrative committee. We should have citizen input before we take this further, is my opinion.
All righty.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Jim.
this also was professionally recommended by the people we had investigate our situation to help us solve some of our managerial problems in Glenville. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. My comment is that Mr. Reshaver just said that this is in no way to diminish the authority of the mayor, but yet what Jim just said and what Al Waycaster said last month, that's exactly what it's doing. That's what these lawyers recommended. Take the power away from the mayor. So that's what they're doing. To sit here and say, oh, we're not trying to diminish the mayor's authority. The mayor that was elected by the citizens, maybe not 50%, but he was elected by the citizens And certain people here on the board, they don't agree that that was the right decision, and that is their right to do. But the citizens did, and I draw the same conclusion at what's going on in the federal politics. There's an attempt, and I said it months ago, and I even got a chuckle out of it, might get another chuckle tonight, because I take this as a coup to take over the mayor's position here. And same as it is, they're trying to undo what the voters of this city did. That's my opinion of it. But to sit here and say it's not to diminish the mayor's thing, that's just flat wrong, and it's misinformation given to the citizens of the city.
I do have a comment. You know, this particular ordinance changes, just as an example, was when the mayor instructed our public works to go pick up Mr. Mark King's political signs. Now, when I brought this up in a meeting in the past, Mr. King informed me that it only cost $10, which ultimately, that's not accurate either. That costs nearly $3,000, the time, the court cost, and the insurance to represent the mayor in the lawsuit. So, you know, this is particular ordinance is the reason behind that. We have a city manager here that should manage and handle our city employees, and I don't think elected officials should be able to walk up to them and tell them what to do and what not to do. Yep.
Well, again, I'll disagree with that statement, because the people elected the mayor. They did not have a voice except through this board of who serves as the city manager.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
this is about properly establishing a chain of command, whether it's military or business. I've got a foreman that runs my business. If I bypass him, go out in the field and start changing what he's doing, taking over, doing the job, he loses his authority. Mr. Al, I don't know why you're here. You have been through hell because of this being in the charter. You don't know what is going to change on a day-to-day business when you go to work. I don't know why you're here, and God bless you for hanging in there. But you've got a chain of command. You go down the chain of command. Mayor, you're the head of the chain of command. You've got a problem, you go right to him. I got a problem with what you're doing. And if you can't solve it with him, you come to the council, we can all fire him. We can hold him accountable. He's educated, he's qualified, he's hired, he's paid big bucks. And our hope is that the council will allow him to start doing his job without interference. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Next one is, to amend section 3.04 of the charter. In line 2, by deleting the phrase "who shall be the chief managerial agent." Do you have a motion?
Then we have it explained.
Well,
We can do that after the motion. A motion to accept.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
The charter says that, presently, the charter says that the city manager is the managerial aide to the mayor. That's what the charter says presently, I believe. I didn't bring it with me now, tonight. So, the manager assists the mayor in essence, is what the charter is saying. My question is this: what is wrong with a city manager being assistant to a mayor, whoever the mayor is, who is elected by the people and is held accountable by the people? Why would that need to change? And it's not, I don't think we lay a lot of emphasis on education, and that's good. But I think all of us here on this podium and in the audience are educated. You know, so it's just all of this, just the motives, I believe the motives are not right. I also believe, as I forestated, that Mr. Grieshaber and Mayor Jewell can work together in this city and make this a very viable place to live. I just believe they can. Mr. Grieshaber, do you find Mr. Jewell hard to work with?
No.
So you don't find him hard to work with, so, and what is so interesting to me too, and I've said this before, Mr. Sales was mayor for 4 years, and the charter was not changed. And Johnny Cook made mention of some changes that needed to be made, but it never happened. But now, we need changes to the charter. Well, if the city manager doesn't find our mayor hard to work with, Mr. Mayor, do you find the manager hard to work with?
Not really. We don't agree on everything, but no, we usually can talk about it.
Okay, I've been married to the same man 15 and a half years, and we don't agree on a whole lot of things, but we get the job done. So I'm wondering about the motives here. And I know I'm just one vote, and they don't really count my vote because they feel like Mr. King is the one who swings it either way. Well, either way can be right or it can be wrong. The majority can be right and the majority can be wrong. The minority sometimes can be right or wrong. I just believe these recommendations, as I forestated, are from the administrative committee. Motives are wrong at this time. I believe that we need citizen input. We should have a meeting and ask citizens, have it at a time, not 2 o'clock in the evening, when citizens can come and voice their concern as to whether they want this charter changed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else?
I'll yield first to the city manager.
Yes, sir. When I said no, I don't have a problem. It's when I'm going around I have a problem. And when I get blamed for something that I didn't do, that's when I have a problem. When there's communication, I don't have a problem. But the council has a right to appoint the city manager. The City of Grantville Employee Handbook gives the city manager certain duties, and it's not as the chief managerial aide to the mayor. That's a conflict with the City of Grantville Employee Handbook that was passed by ordinance in 1999. So that's, in my opinion, one of the reasons why it should be removed. The second is to put that chain of command in place. Make no doubt about it, I am not told about something that I have a challenge with. If I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city, and the mayor, I think, would agree with you that he says the city manager is in charge of the day-to-day operations of the city, then I should be responsible, I should be accountable, and I shouldn't be gone around to get something done, whether it's to speed up a project or to get something done that I haven't been told about. That's the challenge.
All right.
I make no bones about it.
Okay, we all have challenges, one kind of another. Let me ask you this, do you and the mayor, begin the week, say Monday, Tuesday, discussing what you anticipate may happen for the week, or just going over, having a conversation
No,
about anything?
no.
Would you entertain such a thought?
Pardon me?
Would you entertain such a thought as both of you getting together every week just to discuss the everyday
My
operations?
door is always open. It's been open for 4 years. I don't close my door.
Okay,
The mayor can come and talk to me at any time.
well, let me come this way. Maybe if it was planned that, or understood, or that you all would meet every week to discuss the city of Grantville and to, for whatever might be on your agenda, just to have shared thoughts. Would that help to run this city in a more smoothly manner?
I share all my notes of meetings with the mayor. My calendar, whatever I'm doing, I share. I can't tell you, Councilmember Hines, what I'm going to do or what I'm going to answer every day, every minute. But anytime I schedule a meeting, the mayor is advised of it. And in fact, he sits in on some of them.
So, if you don't find him hard to work with, then he doesn't find you hard to work with. But yet, we're here with these changes because we want to change of command and all of that. That is rather interesting when you all are conversing some of the time, if not all of the time. But yet we need this change of command. All right, if the personnel manual does not line up with the charter, then we need to get both to be in line with each other.
That's why I'm suggesting that this be removed from the charter.
And that's
Because I asked that the personnel manual.
I call for the vote. If 3/4 call for the vote, Robert's rules said we got to vote.
No, you don't.
I call for the vote on the motion.
But I'm
And I called for discussion and I haven't closed them yet.
You gotta take a vote on the call, and then you can dismiss me.
No, I don't.
Okay, so Robert's rules doesn't work when you don't want it to.
It does, but I don't, you show it to me where it states that and then I'll do that.
Now help me to understand this. I'm having a
We're proud being the
conversation
city
with the
manager.
manager, and
Just
Mr.
say it out of
Sales is
order.
interrupting me as if he's the most important person here and things have to roll the way he wants it to roll.
Robert's rules of order.
Mr.
No, they're
Sells, you
your
are
rules of
out
order.
of order.
Anyway, as I was saying, I believe the personnel manual and the charter needs to say the same thing. If it does, and when it does, then we will not be at this point. As I forestated, these recommendations, motives are wrong without citizen input. I'll stand on that.
And Mr. Grishaber, just for clarification, I thought these were recommendations of the administrative committee, and you said that's why you are recommending these recommendations.
They're recommendations of the administrative committee, and I, as the city manager, am recommending it too. You make no bones about it. That's exactly what I said. You don't have to have any doubt in your mind, Mr. Mayor. That is what I'm suggesting, that the chain of command should be put in place. And one of the recommendations of the administrative committee is this recommendation, and I agree with it. I don't disagree with it.
I'm not saying you disagree with it or agree, you said you recommend it.
I recommend it. I agree with it. Matter semantics. I recommend it. I agree with it. I concur with it. I think it's good.
And you're not the first city manager this city has had, and there hasn't been a need to change it until now. I'm confused. Anyway, anybody else? Hearing nobody else. Got any discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I got 2 for, 2 against, and I'm opposed. Motion carried. Next will be a recommendation of the administrative committee to add a new paragraph to the charter, section 3.04. The city manager shall notify the mayor and city council as soon as feasible of all work being performed on city property, save for ordinary repair and maintenance activities, identifying who is performing the work and funding source.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a recommendation that came out of the independent investigation on the cemetery retaining wall.
Okay. What's the council want to do tonight? I don't even understand it, but
I need just a
I don't
second.
have to.
I need just a second, Mayor.
Do what?
I need just a second, please. I'm trying to find this in my notes. Mr. Mayor, can we ask the city manager to explain this and also to tell us if he recommends it?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Give me a moment.
Hey, mother, behind 13.
It was a recommendation in the independent investigation that the city manager keep the council informed of people working in the city and on city property. So, this was put together that a new paragraph be added to section 304 of the duties of the city manager. And it would say the city manager shall notify the mayor and city council as soon as feasible of all work being performed on city property, save for ordinary repair and maintenance activities, identifying who is performing the work and the funding source. This came out of the fact that the city council felt that they were not informed that Mr. Rosser was working on the cemetery retaining walls and who was funding it.
Hold on, Mr. City Manager. Selma, do y'all mind if you be quiet, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We can hear you up here.
You're better than I can.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Didn't mean to.
Are you finished, Mr. Boucher?
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear his recommendation.
Recommend to approve. I think it's another checks and balance. I think it's good.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, have a second.
And second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Next order is a recommendation of the committee to amend section 3.07 of the charter in line 1 by adding the phrase after the word charter, the city manager, if the post is filled otherwise, and before the mayor and city council.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The charter now says in section 307, administrative and service departments, except as otherwise provided in this charter, the mayor and city council by ordinance shall prescribe the functions or duties and establish, abolish, alter, consolidate, or leave vacant all non-elected officers, positions of employment, departments and agencies of the city as necessary for the proper administration of the affairs and government of the city. The administrative committee recommended adding the words, except as otherwise provided in this charter, the city manager, if the post is filled, or otherwise, mayor and city council by ordinance shall prescribe the functions or duties and establish, abolish, alter, consolidate, or leave vacant all non-elective officers, positions of employment, departments, and agencies of the city as necessary for the proper administration of the affairs and government of the city. That was the recommendation of the administrative committee.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, and a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll vote that one down too. 2-2 tie, and I vote no. Next section, recommendation, administrative committee to amend section 3.808 of the charter in line 2 by adding the phrase, the city manager, if the post is filled or otherwise by after the words, from office at any time by and before the words, mayor and council.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. In the charter, section 3.08, personnel policies, it says, all employees serve at will and may be removed from office at any time by the mayor and city council unless otherwise provided by ordinance. So, the administrative committee recommended all employees serve as will, all employees serve at will and may be removed from office at any time by the city manager if the post is filled, or otherwise by the mayor and city council unless otherwise provided by ordinance, and that is in line with the City of Grantville Employee Handbook.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I wish you'd let him finish it before you jump up there and approve it.
You went through?
Yes, sir, I'm done.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second, do we have any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so ordered. Discussion, decision on the 2019 LMIG project.
Yes, sir. We brought this at the work session. And again, it's a misprint, it's Charlie Patterson Road. Whether or not we want to do Griffin Street payment repairs and resurfacing from Highway 29 to Main Street, or Charlie Patterson Road pavement repairs and resurfacing from Allen Road to the CSX Railroad crossing, or does someone else have a project suggestion? We have to make a decision by the end of the year.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we pave Griffin Street with the LMIG project, the Griffin Street repairs and resurfacing from Highway 29 to Main Street at a cost of $310,000. That's my motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. We have a second to pave Griffin Street. Motion failed for lack of a second. Have any other motions? Oh,
I have a question.
let me ask you.
Go ahead.
We gotta get a motion or something, I mean, I can.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Well, it's in order, but we do have citizens' comments that I think we should hear. And then we got discussion with the Georgia Council.
Yes, sir.
Like I said, the motion to adjourn is on the order. He made a motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Nothing recommendation, I'll discuss it with you tomorrow then. Okay.
Can I say anything, Mayor?
I'm gonna ask it under your comments, if we're gonna discuss it, we need to have a motion
That's fine.
to do something. All right, next order of business, discussion approval of Georgia Council for the Arts Vibrant Communities Grant Agreement.
Yes, sir, we got a grant from the Georgia Council for Arts Vibrant Communities for $5,000. We recommend approval of the grant. The match is 50 cents to $1. We have money set aside in SPLOST funds for this capital project. Although we are looking for a location of the mural. Right now, we don't have one, but we recommend acceptance of the grant, and we have to let them know by tomorrow.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the Vibrant Community Grant Agreement?
I'll make a motion that we accept it.
I'll second motion.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to hear more about this. Could you elaborate some more about this?
Yes, sir. We got a grant to prepare a mural, and we were going to put it, John Christensen is the artist. The design has already been paid for by Rochelle Jabley. We were going to paint it on her building on the west side of 1 Main Street. It's a welcome to Grantville mural, freight train, cotton bale on it. And now Miss Jabley doesn't feel her building will take it. So we're looking for another location at the present time. We're hoping whoever gives us the location will also give us an easement for the mural. That is the key to expending city funds. John Christensen is a well-known artist. He has designed art centers, live theaters, and studios in 11 cities. His focus is outside public murals that have a cultural and historic theme to it. And his plans are to include the City of Granville mural and the statewide arts collection of Go Georgia Arts. And that is the idea.
Mr. Mayor, if the council chooses to do this, I'll provide the wall on the corner of
16 Main Street.
Right.
Wonderful location.
Right, 16 Main, on the Moreland Street side.
Yes, sir.
I'll provide the mural and sign an easement. As long as y'all handle the expense, I'll sign whatever paperwork you present me, if the council chooses to do this.
Now, this grant is not 100%, right?
No, sir. It's
Well, I mean,
$5,000. We have to match it 50 cents to $1.
But even that is not gonna cover the expenses being there.
We hope so, because the design has already been paid for. The
Mr. Mayor,
design was $1,500.
and we did like that at the past, right? I mean, we had that here months ago, right?
Yes, Ms. Javley showed it. When the project costs come out, they will be before the city council for approval.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions?
I do. So can we use that money for something else if we choose not to do that?
I
Or
don't
did it
know.
have to be designated?
I don't know. I'd have to ask the Georgia Council for Arts.
Did you not say it had to be, they had to know tomorrow?
Well, we have to accept the grant by tomorrow. We were supposed to do it by the 12th of November, but I got an extension telling them that the city council would only meet tonight. Now, the reason I say it has to be used for the mural is because in the scope of services provided by recipient, we talked about a mural. And we talked about it being located on 1 Main Street. However, I will go back to them if the grant's accepted and tell them we're changing the location. Is that acceptable? We don't get the money till we put in a reimbursement form. So they're in control of the money.
Okay, anybody else? All in favor of
Accepting,
approval of the Georgia Council of Art Community Grant, signify by
Aye.
opposed. Ayes have it, so ordered. All right, next order of business be citizens' comments. James Berry.
Mayor, City Council, my name is James Berry, and I live at 2 Post Street, Granville, Georgia. And I'm here tonight to find out about the sewage. I had a sewer problem back here, and I didn't get no reputation, nothing signed on it or asked about it. But I found out that here's the city manager, he had the same sewage problem, and not the city manager, but Jim Sayre, the council member, had the same sewage, and he get reimbursed for his sewage, for cleaning out his sewage and stuff. over $2,000, I think it's $2,640-something, and they reimbursed me. The city manager, I went to the city manager on my problem. The city management sent me down here to the council. The council wouldn't even take a vote on it. But here's another council member can get his sewer cleaned out and stuff and get reimbursed for it. They're going on. And I don't understand that. But the city manager, word ain't about nothing. I wouldn't go two steps for the city manager. The city manager word, I wouldn't go to the door for the city manager. His word is not acceptable. He told me a lie and he didn't do what he's supposed to do. And the same council member can go down there and get reimbursed and the city clean it and they use cameras and everything, and I paid for mine, and they had to clean out the city drain to get my sewer cleaned out. And they had to use hot tap mats and white clothes and stuff. They had to put it all down there. And the guy that they gave all this money to be, I guess, a counselor or a surveyor or something. He didn't even know what the drain was. He had to go to another man to find out where the city drain was. And the city manager told me if it was on the city street, that they would take care of it, reimburse me. But it was in the city, and I paid for the cameras and all that stuff, and here the council member can come up and get his done and get reimbursed. And I know it didn't come to the council. Did y'all get a thing council? No. I had to go after I came to the council. I had to go to the claim down in Georgia, Newnan.